Welcome to another amazing episode.
We'll see how amazing it is, right?
No, I'm purposely projecting that, given that they are always amazing, and we have an amazing guest today. So it just seems pretty likely that it's going to be a great episode.
Well, thank you for that. The pressure's on.
And you're hearing the voice right now, ladies and gentlemen, of Barti Bourgault. And I might as well read her bio so we all know who we're dealing with here as we get into it.
Well, wait a minute. Who are you?
I don't remember. Who is the true me? This is Martin Kettlehead. I'm an executive coach, and I've written a book recently on leadership called Leadership as Relation. And that other male voice you just heard, I still want to get back to Barti, our guest.
Sure.
Is Bill Tierney. And Bill is an IFS coach and a very compassionate, results-oriented kind of coach. And so we're here every Wednesday recording an episode of this interesting podcast. And today we have Barti Bourgault with us. And let me just tell you a little bit about her before we really hear from her. She's basically a healer, a healing practitioner. As a coach trainer, as a mentor coach, she holds a PCC credential from the International Coaching Federation, is a former member of the ICF New England Board of Directors. She has certification in mindfulness teaching, yoga instruction, Reiki practicing, and a master's degree in consciousness studies. And last year, she co-founded the Institute for Healing and Awakening with Guthrie Sayan, is it pronounced? Sayan. So at the foundation of Barti's work is an unshakable trust that we are naturally whole, wise, loving, and good, and that our systems know how to heal. She's actively on her own journey of healing and awakening and supports others in navigating theirs. Welcome, Barti.
Thank you very much. That's quite an intro.
You wrote it.
I'm impressed. Who knew?
It is impressive. It is impressive. And we were just talking before we pressed record here about what a full schedule, a full life you have in trainings and all the work that you're doing. So we've got a lot to learn from you here today. Where do you want to start, Bill?
Well, the couple of things that I heard you, even though I'd read that in advance, really heard it read out loud, what caught my ear was systems know how to heal. I wonder if that's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
So what is my question? My question is, can you help me I think I understand what that means. I'm not sure that my listeners will know what that means. So I wonder if you could just kind of tell us what you mean by it, Barti, that systems know how to heal.
Yeah. What I mean by that is that we as human beings innately know how to heal, not in a cognitive way, but that the system, this physical body, emotional body that we live in knows how to heal itself. And a good indication of that is you cut your finger and you don't have to think your way into that cut healing. It innate, like the cells in your body know how to heal. And I believe that extends beyond just a cut finger or a broken leg, that emotionally that we know how to heal when the wound is cleaned. How's that?
Yeah.
Sticking with the analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our job, right? Is to keep the environment clean, sterile, create an environment for healing to occur.
Exactly. Yeah. So our presence is part of the healing environment because we can affect the environment. But the healing agent is actually the client's self, the client's presence. Yeah.
Mhm. So, Barty, you and I have a lot in common. We're both coaches.
Yeah.
We both use IFS predominantly in our coaching practices. Am I right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm really, really interested in hearing about your experience of being a PCC ICF certified coach
Mm-hmm.
and then being introduced to the IFS model. Or correct me, maybe my understanding is that you probably weren't using IFS until you were.
So when I got trained as a coach, Guthrie Cyan was actually my instructor, and it was a coach training called Coaching with Spirit, and it was brief. It was, I think, 4 weekends, and that was it. And one of the weekends, we were taught a very basic level of IFS. So I have been coaching using the IFS model from the very beginning.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's along with other protocols, but primarily IFS. I mean, I was just fascinated with it from day one.
Yeah.
So your question of kind of my experience of kind of marrying IFS with ICF protocols and core competencies.
Got it. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bit of a tough question. Yeah, so holding that, holding the core competencies of, the ethics of coaching, the allowing the client to lead, um, staying on the agenda, having a coaching mindset, maintaining presence, like all of that, I feel like I stay very true to. I think the one thing that might be stretching or pushing the limits is, from my perspective, clients often come with an agenda or a topic, and what's actually saying what needs to happen and what I want to work on is a part in IFS language. It's a
Mhm.
manager. So I'm always holding a meta agenda that the client might not be aware of supporting my client in accessing self. So that's not quite in alignment with ICF, that I actually am holding my own agenda. And yet I still do it. And I also, the ICF doesn't speak to coaching as a healing modality necessarily. I think that maybe they shy away from that because we are not clinical, medically trained. And yet I do consider myself a healer. And so maybe I push the envelope there as well.
Well, you're just reporting reality, I believe. I mean, when you work with people, they become more whole.
Yes, yes. And part of that might be the type of people that I attract. I mean, I work with people who are willingly on their healing journey, and that's why they seek me out. The majority of the people that I work with are already, they know that I use the IFS model in a lot of cases, and if you read my website, it's all about healing and awakening. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's not, if you want to get from point A to point B, I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to be like, if you want to get to point A, from point A to point B, I'm going to find out why.
There.
And then we're
Yeah.
going to work from there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty, I want to encourage you to jump in at any point, because I can completely dominate this interview, this conversation, if you don't jump in. So I'm just going to invite you in.
Well, I don't necessarily want to impede you.
Oh, I'm not saying that would impede me at all. It's just that I have probably an unending list of questions for Barty, and I want you to have.
Well, I don't want to impede that. Go ahead. No, but let me just ask one thing, if you don't mind. Because you mentioned it a couple of times now. Barty, about your own healing journey.
Mhm.
And that might be a good way to get into everything else. What was there to heal, and how did you heal it? And what did that provide for the career that you got now?
Yeah. Yeah. I truly believe, and I can't remember who said it, and I should know this, but something to the effect of, it's the wounded healers who are the best healers, or something like that. Like, and it makes so much sense to me that until you've walked the road, it's really hard to support someone else in walking the road. You have to have done it yourself. And so I think it's very important for anybody who's in a healing profession to make sure that they have done their work. And
Mhm.
my work, I mean, I didn't have huge trauma in my childhood. I did have some. My father passed away when I was 13, and I was a little different than the other people in my family, in that I think I was maybe a highly sensitive person. And my father was an entrepreneur, and I always knew I was going to college, and I went to Boston College, and I was summa cum laude, and I was a finance major, and my first job was with General Electric in their financial management program. And I left there. I went to work on Wall Street, and I was a square peg in a round hole for my entire 20s, just floundering, trying to find my way, because I think the wound I needed to heal was that I thought I had to be someone else or like something else. And I was trying to fit in some place that I had the capability, but it just felt like I was wearing someone else's clothes or someone else's skin. And so I needed to go through the process of discovery of who I am, heal those parts of me that felt that what I was wrong or not enough.
Mm.
I didn't have the right skill set. I didn't have the right interests. And to really embrace the mission that I was on, that I really wanted to help people, and that I have a lot of hope for the evolution of human beings, and I want to be a part of that. And so, it took me, I was 55 when I took the coach training. you know?
So that was a long time between Wall Street and
Oh, it
ICO.
was, yeah, I did finance, I did marketing, I floundered, and I finally was like, enough. Like, this is the perfect storm. Nothing in my universe was working because I was not paying attention. And when I finally paid attention, I was like, okay, screw it. I'm giving it all up. I'm going back to school, and I'm going to see where I end up. And I've just been following a path that you can't see. You can't see your path until you look backwards. But
Right.
you just take step, 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 and I really love where I've landed. Does that
That's
answer your
wonderful.
does that answer your question?
A little bit, yeah, and great. I think it's really good the way you answered it too, because I think a lot of our listeners can identify. I can identify, like why does it feel like this isn't me, this job or this relationship or
Yeah.
this group of people, and you do kind of just go, well, step by step until and you find that it's a better fit. You said what was the word you used? They pay attention when you started to pay attention. Was that it?
Yeah, paying attention to this was the healing. Paying attention to what I wanted, paying attention to what feels right to me and what feels wrong, rather than
Mhm,
looking outside for validation, looking inside for validation.
mhm, mhm.
Acknowledging my strengths, where I wanted to, what lights me up.
Right. That's great. And so I imagine some of our listeners are going, looking inside for validation. Like that's a whole new idea, probably for a lot of us. Is there a do you need an IFS practitioner, a coach to do that, or is the way to do that on your own? What is that even like? If somebody's really not familiar with that, how would you say they should get started?
Well, I think different people have different levels of access to what they feel based on how they were raised, what they were taught to value. So many of us are taught to value thinking so highly that we don't have access to our feelings. Many
Right.
people, feelings are way too scary. So there's a lot of protection actually feeling it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that the start is to just find a sense of stillness, internal stillness. So it's slowing down, it's settling in, and it's starting to notice, is there tension here? Am I contracted?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are the emotions that are arising? Is there anger here? Is there sadness? Is there anxiety? Like all of those things, all of our emotions and our physical sensations give us information, but we're not going to feel them unless we slow down and we're intentional about it. And it takes practice because it's so easy to just keep plowing ahead and not noticing, oh my gosh, my stomach is in knots. My shoulders are up to my ears. What is this about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, I think we could say, you know, as the True You podcast, and if anybody was listening, wondering, well, True You, where do I start? I think that was a great, that is ultimately where all of the different paths start from is slow down and really get in touch with what's really going on inside. It's really good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really glad you asked that question, Marty. So I heard uh, I heard you say that the healing process for you involved discovering who you were. Who am I? I'm already interested in that all by itself. How do you discover who you are if you are who you are? How is it that?
Well, I think that a parent's job is to be able to reflect who their child is in their eyes. So the child can look at the parent and say, oh, they see me. I can see who I am through them. And I think that that's a really hard thing to do, especially,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, in my family, I was born in the 50s. Um, my mother wanted us to be nice and pretty and have everyone like us and follow the rules. And so, how do you learn who you are when you're constantly looking outside? Do people like me? Are
Yeah.
people validating me? People
Mm-hmm.
accepting me? And that's a natural thing to do. But when you're able to actually look at yourself and say, who am I? What do I like? Am I satisfied with this? Does this make me happy? I think that's how you discover who you are. How
And I
does
bet there's probably a niche of people that are listening who they're like, well, I'm clear that all that outside influence is not me, but how can I change that? Like, what do I do about that? They're still going to be there thinking those things about me. How do I get beyond this?
And I heard Barty say that on that path to the discovery of who I am, you go inside and you begin to ask, not what do they think or what do they want me to want, or who is it that they want me to be, but who am I, uh, informed by what do I want, what feels right, and what feels wrong. I think I heard you say that, Barty.
Well, I think that's great. I think that's really important for our listeners and for me too, to recognize like that who you really are, that is the ticket right? There, once you've got that and you just really check me on this, guys, really let that run your life, that who you really are, rather than those outside influences, the questions about how to overcome this obstacle or how to deal with that person or what to do about the fact there's no money in the bank, all that stuff will get handled through you being true to yourself.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that when you have clarity on what you're saying yes to, that it gets clear on how to navigate and what to say no to. And I do want to add also that I think it's the journey continues. And I learned this in my consciousness studies master program. Like the lens I felt like I was looking through was like this, and it was a perfectly fine lens. And then it's like, holy shit. Like, the lens can be a lot bigger because our lens is, cultural, ancestral, yeah, as a woman, there's so many things that impact what we think our values are and how we see the world that influences who we think we are. And I think that it can expand and expand and expand. So I would say that, you don't have to have a static definition of who you are, because I think that the goal is, or for me anyway, is to continue to evolve and expand.
That's great. I like that. Yeah, that's reassuring too. Like if it doesn't feel quite right, it doesn't mean you failed at finding your true self. You're still on the way,
You're
and it's
still
going
on the way. Yeah. Yeah, I
Barty,
mean, I guess
go ahead.
I have a question for the two of you. How do
Yeah.
you define your true self or the true you?
Do you want to go, Marty?
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I think I might like to answer by asking the question I was about to ask and then leading into how I answer it now, if that's okay. Barty, as you're talking about broadening the lens and evolving and expanding, I'm just remembering at the age of 27 years old, going to my first AA meeting, or first few AA meetings, and sitting around and kind of being shocked at how transparently disclosed so many of the people were that were talking in the meetings. And I'd never experienced that ever before in my entire life. Of course, I was only 27, in contrast to the 70 that I am now. That doesn't seem like much, but still, I was on the planet for 27 years before I felt like I had, or was in the presence of people that were having transparent, authentic, truthful conversations as they reported about themselves and what they were feeling, what they were thinking, and so on and so forth. And so in that environment, I felt encouraged to begin to speak for what I wanted and what I didn't want. And when I did, there was this rageful energy behind every expression of what I didn't want. And one of my first AA sponsors observed that and said to me, "It's okay that you want that, and it's okay that you don't want that." And I'm wondering why you're so angry about it. And I didn't know then. I can tell you now that the reason I was so angry about it is because it didn't feel like it was okay for me to want what I wanted, and it didn't feel like it was okay for me to not what I want, what I didn't. And so now, fast forward. I mean, that was my introduction to self-awareness, to personal development, to healing, and I was able to get and stay sober. I'm really grateful for the support that I got in being able to do that, because that basically put me into the waiting room of what I call recovery. Because to me, I define recovery as recovery of my true authentic self. And I found that I couldn't access my true authentic self as long as the belief system that I had formed about me and about the world was inaccurate. So, and this was the question I was going to ask you, Barty. was, can you give us like some history? Like, what you talked about broadening that lens, and I'll answer your question first, and then I want to hear it from you too. For me, the lens broadened at first at 27 in AA, and then it broadened again, like expansively, when I was introduced to work of Byron Katie in 2001. And then it felt like I got to 360 degrees and three-dimensional with IFS starting in 2016.
Mm.
And as that happened, I found myself, the fog clearing more and more and more and more. And this continues as to who I actually am. And as you say, what comes, I know who I am when I have access to the clarity, the compassion, the heart, the love, the unconditional positive regard that I might have for people. And I know that I can travel a distance away from it again as soon as I get scared. Or hurt. So there's my answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So that makes me think how beneficial IFS is in the recovery of who we really are. Because to your point, and I think we started out in the intro with this, is that, if we start out with, at our core, we're all whole, wise, loving, good, intact, that what gets in the way of that are these protective parts or belief systems that we've adopted that our parts have. And when through coaching work or healing work, some sort of work to come to know these parts of our psyche, these parts of ourselves that are not, they don't have accurate information necessarily, that when we can get to know them and understand them and appreciate them and they can soften back, we do have access to our courage and creativity and compassion and confidence and all those great C's, and the ninth C of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And can I jump in again? You got me started.
Yeah, good.
I love talking about this stuff. So I'd love your feedback on this, because I feel like we're multiple things. Like, we are particle and wave. We are a human being in a human body, having a human experience with all of our humanity, and we are imperfect. And we are part of the whole. We're part of consciousness. That we're in some ways eternal, right? And so how can you hold both of, okay, I'm Barti Bourgault, I live, here in Maine, and I've got my life and I got my parts, and when I can expand into everything, I'm also have access to the collective. And I think that's part of our true you too.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean by the true me. That collective, I mean, every cell in my body is from, it's shared with the trees and the street and the birds and the sea. I mean, so that's not me. Or it is me, sorry, in the sense that we're all made out of that same stuff, those same elements. So you could say, well, then I am like everything else in the universe. Part of the true me is that I'm made of these same elements. You could say that. But I think that this sense that we get when we go within and get quiet and distinguish what's external, there's some little seed in there that tells me that this consciousness, this awareness of self, has to have been there from the get-go, or it wouldn't be there now.
Right. You didn't go buy it at the 5 and dime. Yeah.
Right. They didn't invent it in 1934. That's in the mix from the beginning, and we are born of it.
Mm.
And like you said, I can't tell. It doesn't seem like it started with the Big Bang. It seems like it was here before then. And it'll probably be alive, this consciousness that we are, and as far as I can see, into the future. So I agree with you. It seems eternal. Now, I can't say it is because I haven't been to the end of time, but it sure seems like it.
Mm.
So that is what I mean by the true me. And so I think, to answer your question, that you got to get quiet. You got to get quiet to have any inkling of that.
And that, in a noisy internal world, is the biggest challenge I have faced in my spiritual path. How to get quiet. I have found that I get there through getting interested.
Mm-hmm.
By consciously, intentionally pointing my awareness and attention on something in this present moment, just bringing it all of my attention. It gets me there.
Well, that's a piece of wisdom that trickles down through all of the different ways that people teach meditation. There's got to be a focal point, something you're focused on. Otherwise, we're adrift.
Hey, want to reclaim your true self or deepen your IFS skills? I lead 5 IFS focused groups for healing and growth. Find your fit at billtierneycoaching.com/coaching-groups. billtierneycoaching.com/coaching-groups. Now back to the show.
Right. In thought. So there's got to be something to focus on, so that the thoughts can come and go, but there's something that's holding me here in this moment. Yeah. So I think that's a really good thing to point out, Bill.
I want to go back to first of all, Marty, do you feel like you've answered as fully as you'd like to who your true self is?
Never.
No. I want to honor Barty's question and give you an opportunity to fully answer it.
No, I think it's really one of those things. Like I love that you said it. It's not like you arrive; it's ongoing, and so I'm happy with identifying the seed, consciousness. Because I'm not going to come to the end of that question today.
What I say to my clients is that, and it's very similar to what you're saying, Barty, that I believe, and I got this, I think, from Unity Church 35 years ago. I believe that who we are is whole, perfect, and complete. And that's who we were born as. That's who we were before we were born. That's who we've always been since then, and that's who we will be the day we die and thereafter. So that doesn't change. It never changes. And it's similar to something that we say in IFS, which is that the self can't be harmed. The self can't be damaged. Who we truly are, no matter what has happened, cannot be damaged and cannot be harmed, which was ridiculous when I first heard it. I thought, that's impossible. Possibly be.
Let's try it out.
Well, I certainly had tried plenty by then. And it felt like who I was had been plenty damaged and plenty harmed. And I came to realize, oh no, those were parts of me. In fact, I have sacrificing parts that have sacrificed their whole lives so that I can go on and survive, and that hold all of that damage and that harm. And now that I've done enough healing, and now that I've learned to access who I really am, thanks to IFS and mentors and teachers like you, Barty, I know how to go back, and I'm learning and continuing to learn more and more about how to go back and rescue those that saved me.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to put it. Rescue those parts that saved me. Because oftentimes we don't like those parts. But the jobs they took on, it was a very intelligent choice of job at the time. And we need to honor that.
Yeah. Given the resources that they had at that time to work with, and the fact that they continue, no matter how old I've gotten, they continue to use the only resources that they had at that time.
Yeah.
to try to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marty, you were
Yeah, but would you guys say that that intelligence that they have to move you along the path toward the true you, that's what part of what we're talking about. That is our truth. That is that consciousness that's in the universe already before our bodies got formed, right? And will be there after they're gone. The and I think that's really, this is where the spiritual tradition and the therapeutic tradition, I think, come together in a good way, because you know all parts are welcome, because they are participating in this evolution of consciousness, and they're all working toward our evolution and coming into our full consciousness, our truest self. Would you put it that way?
Are you asking me or Bill?
I'm hoping he's asking you, Bart.
Okay. I don't know as I see it exactly that way.
Uh-huh.
What I meant by that was that at the time, their choice to protect the vulnerable parts of us, when we were 3, 5, 7, 9, by avoiding or getting angry or whatever, or drinking or whatever the behavior is, in the moment that they took on that role, it was intelligent because it did protect the vulnerable one. So I
Yeah.
think I agree with you that there's intelligence in the system. I think that
Mhm.
what happens is that they get stuck there, and they keep doing that job without ever being able to reflect on the fact that it's no longer needed and that it's actually not successful later on in life.
Right.
So there's initial intelligence, um, and there's the need to recover from,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to go and recover the one that was vulnerable, that we weren't able to take care of because we weren't fully formed. Self wasn't fully I don't know how to say it. I always stumble on this part. Like, it's like we didn't have the hardware, we weren't
Yeah.
developed enough for self to be fully present. And so these
Mhm.
parts had to take over. And now self can manage things, and that young, vulnerable part can be rescued. The part that has this job that is no longer actually working and it's actually causing harm can have the opportunity to do something else that would be more in line with what their natural gifts are. So I do agree that there's a natural intelligence in our system,
Mhm.
but I think there's a nuance in there that I hope was clear around the initial intelligence of taking on the job, and how there is later on the opportunity to actually shift things because that initial intelligence is no longer appropriate because we're not still in the same time or place.
Yeah, yeah. No, it makes sense to me. I mean, I also see that going on in larger entities besides individual people too. ICF is evolving as it recognizes a better way to serve its purpose,
Yes.
right? The United States of America is doing the same thing, right? The Christian church, you know, is similar. You can see like, oh yeah, it has certain old things that don't work anymore. It kind of needs updating. And I think our new pope, if I could say our here, I'm not Catholic, but I want to claim him for my own, is onto that. So that's like, things do get encrusted. Like the river, digs its path, and then it keeps that unless something, it needs to respond to something and reshape itself. So that makes sense to me.
Which is one of the things that I've always loved about IFS, is that it all makes sense at some level. A part is doing what it does because it makes sense to that part to do it. And if it gets new information, it's going to change what it does. But and here's the temptation when facilitating an IFS session, is to grab onto that agenda you were talking about, Barty, and bring that into a session and give the part the new information before it's ready to hear it.
Yeah, or it's another part that wants that part to change, and that's the agenda. And it's like,
Right.
okay, now we're just taking sides.
That's right. Yeah.
which
Another point. The other thing I wanted to say about this intelligence that we're talking about in terms of what informs the survival strategies that parts take on, they're mimicking, they're copying what they see in the environment most of the time. If dad brooded and withdrew when there was tension in the house, I'm going to have a part that learned how to brood and withdraw. If mom was critical and damning, then I'm going to have a part that's critical and damning, because that's the resources that were being demonstrated in the environment that at the time that the wound occurred, that be hidden away and managed.
I think there's also only so many strategies. You know, you can fight, you can flee, you can fawn, you can endure. You know, it's like, and if you look at any family, each child has their strategy, because if you're the one that endures, I'm probably going to be the one that fights, and because we all can't have the same strategy, it's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's probably nuances that are endless, but when it comes right down to it, the strategies are, archetypal, right? The critic, the cheerleader, the whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A couple things I want to mention, just kind of catch up on some open-ended things that happened in this conversation so far. And then I think we need to start moving in the direction of beginning to wrap up. We're about 42 minutes into the session now. Wounded healer. It is the wounded healers that heal best. You mentioned earlier, Barty, and I looked it up. And it's Carl Jung.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to misquote. Okay, great.
So it says here, the term is attributed to Carl Jung and draws from the myth of, is it Chiron? Chiron, Chiron, a centaur who, despite his own incurable wound, became a legendary healer. Here's the cool thing, though, is that wounds that we have are absolutely curable. Trauma, we can heal. We can heal trauma. And I've never found anything more, I'm sorry, I'm walking away as I'm talking. I've never found anything more efficient than IFS in healing trauma. And I've been in therapy for close to 30 years. The other thing, if I could add,
just one little, I don't know, footnote to that. The wounded healer has to do his work to it. Just because you're wounded doesn't make you a healer. So I know you're not saying that, but my dad was a wounded person who went into a healing profession. He became a pastor. He wanted to do his best by people with his career, and he was very wounded. And my mom and I read that book by Henry Nouwen called The Wounded Healer together, and talked about my dad. After he passed on, I just started to get shaky. And that was one of the things we had to come to terms with. Like, yes, he was wounded and he wanted to be a healer, but it was also in his way because he hadn't really fully found his true self.
How I look at that, and I can feel how hard that is for you right now. And how I might say it is that it's a hero's journey, this becoming a wounded healer. You have the wound, you go to the dark soul of the night, and you come out. And you come out, and at that point, you're a wounded healer because you have healed.
Right.
You have been wounded, you have healed, and then you can support the healing of others. And I think that's the distinction.
Yeah. That's very well said. Thank you.
Mm, mm.
So anyway, I interrupted you, Bill. Please go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you slowed that down because there was more to be said around that. And I'm wondering if there's anything else that needs to be or wants to be said around that.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
Back to this idea of things evolving, emerging, like that this is everything is emergent, right? And I think that the coaching profession is as well. And I think when you mentioned the ICF is moving at the pace that it can to keep up with where coaching is heading. And I believe that coaching that we are uniquely qualified to support the healing of others. And I can feel that that's where at least part of the coaching profession is going. And I hope it continues in that way.
I'm glad you brought that up again because that reminds me that I did want to circle back to a comment that you made about that. So when someone comes to you, they know that you're a healing coach. They already know that. You said that. That you attract people that recognize that you're a healing coach. And yet you're a coach. You're not a therapist, and you don't identify specifically as a healing practitioner. You're a coach. And to me, what makes a coach is someone that helps a person who has struggled to make the changes or accomplish the things they want to accomplish and recognize that they need help and support along the way. So when they come to you, they come with something that they hope that you're going to be able to help them with. And your comment earlier was that's a manager or that's a protector. That's probably a manager that's bringing that agenda. Can you say more about that, please?
Yeah. So oftentimes these managers, these parts get people into coaching or therapy. And that's a really wonderful thing. When you dig deeper around what they come to you for, about and what will you have when you get that? And what will you have when you get that? You get to what they're really looking for and you get to the deeper work. And so
Yes.
when you do the deeper work, and I can't remember which one of you said this in the beginning, when you get to the deeper work and you find your access to self, the answer to the presenting problem becomes a lot easier.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that seems almost magical, doesn't it?
it does.
So one of I thought that we probably had more parallel paths than we do. I was surprised to hear, and it makes sense now that I know it, that right from the beginning for you, coaching included IFS, but not so for me. I coached for 5 years before I was introduced to IFS. And so I'd gone through an ICF training in 2015 and 2016. And ironically, it was that training that completely took my legs out from underneath me to the point where I had zero confidence that I could continue to be a coach. And so ended up in therapy to try to heal and get my confidence back. Once I'd gotten back confidence, the capital C confidence, not based on merit or how I earned it. Then I began to experience the power of IFS and realize that when my clients come to me with a problem, even though I was trying my very best not to fix that for them, not to solve their problem for them, I had a coaching part that would try to give them all the right questions so that they could find the answer that I already knew. that I already had for them. Whereas as I've learned how to use IFS starting in about 2019 with level 1 in the IFS Institute, I realized, all of that can be just set aside once the trail has been established. We know what parts are involved in the problem that they're trying to solve. By the way, the problem always ends up being something that's unsolvable because it's from the past. It's only healable. It's not solvable.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. Yeah.
So-
whatever is presented is not really what's going on usually.
Yeah, it's a symptom. It's not the problem.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that what makes coaches so uniquely qualified is they are in relationship with the client from a non-clinical perspective, where we're not looking for what's wrong. We're not trying to diagnose. We are here to support, to be respectful, particularly if a coach that uses IFS, you know how deeply you need to respect someone else's system, and you're gentle, you treat everybody. Oh, I have this thing hanging here. Speak to all people as though they are the wisest, gentlest, most beautiful beings on earth for what they believe they become. And I believe that that's kind of the magic of IFS, is that when you treat all parts with respect, knowing that they have noble purposes, and you build those relationships with your client, with their parts, that's where things start to shift.
Yeah.
And coaches are trained to be present, to be curious, to not have their own agenda. We are uniquely qualified. And when a coach can really be trained in finding their own internal ground in stillness, they can hold whatever comes up for the client and
That's right.
still be there in relationship.
Yep.
That's a great. Can we end there? That was perfect. I mean, I want to have you back. I don't mean I don't want to talk anymore. We've only just begun, but that was so beautifully put. And since we are close to time, I'm saying we should draw the line right
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
It's not to me, although I do want listeners to know how they might learn more about you, Barty, or learn what services you offer. So would you want to take a moment and just tell folks where do they find you and what kind of service?
Sure. So there's two things that I'll give a little plug for. One is, if you want to learn more about me and what I offer, my website is all one word, movebeyondtheedge.com. And that's the name of my business is Beyond the Edge. So beyond the edge of what you think is currently real or possible. You know, you get to the edge and it's like, oh my gosh, there's no edge here. It just keeps going. And then my business partner, Guthrie Sion, and I co-founded the Institute for Healing and Awakening. And we offer trainings for practitioners, coach trainings, IFS trainings, and trainings to support people to have the capacity to be more still and present in relationship with another person. And you can look at it's called healingandawakening.institute. That's the URL. Yeah.
Awakening.institute.
Healingandawakening.institute.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we have like 6 or 8 programs coming up in the next year.
Wow. Nice.
So there's lots to pique your interest, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I just really want to thank you. I didn't ever mention in the episode here that the way it came to be that you're a guest on our podcast is that you are one of the trainers in the training that I'm in now. And when I first signed up for the IFS for Coaches training that you're leading with Guthrie, I did so because Rachel Parks had also registered for that program.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Rachel Parks fan. So I'd already been certified in IFS before I showed up, and wondered, in fact, had a conversation with Guthrie even after I'd paid and signed up for the program. Was this a mistake? Should I have done this, given all the training that I already have? And his answer was, yes, no, we'd love to have you in the program, and I think that you're going to learn some things. I just want to say, oh my God, have I learned some things? This has been fantastic training that you two offer. And I have just the highest respect for the two of you and consider you both to be mentors. And I'm just honored that you agreed so readily to come on and be on the podcast. Thanks.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I was honored to be here. I've never written a book. I'm like, I don't have a PhD. I'm like, oh, wow. They want me. So thank you. I was very honored to be here.
Well, you're making a difference in the world for me, and I know for a lot of other people.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's
I appreciate that.
it's not your credentials, it's the true you we wanted.
There we go. That's it.
Hopefully that's
Hopefully-
what you got.
I believe we did. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Barty. Thank you, Marty. We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.